Aloha everybody and welcome back to Robbies Ramblings, a show where I select a topic and talk about it for an indefinite amount of time. Now, I've not done this series in a while. I think the last episode was about in November, but I've decided to resurrect it because it's a good way to get my thoughts out there. And I've just realised it is the 25th of August 2017 today. Many people have just got the results today, but I want to concentrate on the people who have just left primary school or just left secondary school and they're going into a new place, starting a new step in their educational career, not career, experience. So I've got 5 topics I want to talk about on the screen right here, and from a person who's gone through primary school, gone through secondary school and is halfway through their A-levels, I think I'm fairly qualified to tell you what to do. And first of all, I enjoyed every single minute of my educational days. Like, if you're one of those people who hates school, hates, education, doesn't like teachers, doesn't like homework, doesn't like the whole system of popularity and everything, then you're perfectly respected in thinking that. But to be honest, you need to make the most of it, because these are the best days of your life. Okay, when you're in primary school and just drawing on the walls in nursery, that is amazing. When you're in year 6 and you're the top of primary school and you're just pissing about, that is amazing. When you're in year 11, you've not got a care in the world, you're a teenager, you're young, you know what you're doing, those are the best days of your life and you need to savour them. I say that because I've just watched The World's End, which is the final film in the Edgar Wright Cornetto trilogy, and it's all about that sort of, growing up and the golden days of being young. But be grateful that you are young and you're free and you don't have responsibilities of being younger. Just make the most of your education. So number 1 is schoolwork. Okay, that is the main part of why you're there. That is the main reason you want to improve your skills as a person. School is there to raise you up and get you ready for society, and one of the ways it does this is teaches you the ways of the educational system. Now, the educational system is a bit flawed. It's a bit I don't particularly like it too much because it is a bit too rigid, and it relies on the assumption that every single child is the same and learns in the same amount of people learn in the same way, which obviously they don't. Obviously personalities differ. Younger people learn differently than older people from different backgrounds, boys and girls, that kind of thing. It's lots of different studies have shown that girls like to learn in a classroom environment, whereas boys like to learn hands-on, which doesn't really cater to those sort of things. Obviously they're like the extreme ends of the averages, but school doesn't really cater to this. So what I'd say is, when you're in the classroom, work hard. Okay, so you can dick about a bit, but at the end of the day, you're there to get qualifications and learn. And honestly, it is so beneficial to you if you start revising early. If you go over stuff that you learn in class, if you go over stuff after you've gone in the lesson. Say you're in a biology class and you learn about animal classifications. Go home and learn that and drill it into your brain. That way you'll have less to do at the end of the year if you have a test or if you have an exam, and that will really sort of dismount the pressure of the amount of work. Because when you're in primary school, it's kind of easy. It's very easy to get into the comfort of things. You're around a lot of young, naive minds, and they don't really put a lot of pressure on you. And you don't really get much homework. Homework's not really taken seriously in primary school. It's definitely taken seriously in secondary school, and especially it's further education, not further education, sort of A-level standard. But in primary school, it's not really much of an issue. In secondary school, I would recommend it, like starting in year 9, because that year 9 is kind of when exams start. Year 9, year 10, year 11. For any Americans watching, that's like grade 9, grade 8, stuff like that. Grades are basically years. Just substitute the word grade for year. So schoolwork is definitely the most important. It's why you're there. It's why your entire sort of initiation to life is set in the school system. Item number 2 is homework. Now, I've touched on this just a minute ago, but homework is definitely, it ramps up when you get into year 7. You start getting those big assignments, you start getting those sort of homeworks, and people in year 11 like to joke about year 7s having homework because, oh, it's just dicking about, you just make castles and, you know, you back your books and everything, but to be honest, they're quite fun homeworks, and don't think that you're a rebel just because you're too good to do homework. As long as you do it to a reasonably good standard, then you'll be fine. The best thing to do is to have a good relationship with pupils and students evenly. Pupils and teachers evenly, because that way, you sort of want to be in that middle ground. You want to be popular with the kids, but not being seen as a teacher's pet, because being a teacher's pet is unfair on the other kids, but being just a dick to the teachers makes their life a living hell, and ultimately they're not getting. If you're not prepared to listen, then they're not prepared to teach. But having said that, it is okay to have a little bit of leeway, because at the end of the day, they get paid whether they do a good job or not of teaching. Homework is definitely important, because sorry, someone had to walk in then. It was my sister. She's going to bed. So yeah, homework is definitely a integral part of secondary school. You need it. You only have a certain amount of time in classroom to cram in all the knowledge that you need in that lesson, and homework is a very good sort of way to catch up on some of the stuff you missed, to go over it, and it links into at the start when he said it's important to go over the stuff you have. So homework is definitely important. Don't be just rebellious, and ultimately you're you and you can do what you want. This isn't the be all and end all. I don't know everything. I'm just fairly experienced. But you can choose to do it or do it or not do it. But at the end of the day, it will benefit you greatly if you do it. Item number 3 I've got here is friends. Now, obviously, you'll have friends from primary school if you're going into secondary school. You'll have friends from secondary school going into A-level, although that is rarely the case. I found that there were up teens of people from my primary school who went to my secondary school, which was good because I knew a lot of people. I had a lot of close friends in primary school when I went to secondary school, but it was not the case when I went into A-level education. I only had a couple of mates, two or three mates, but by then you're matured, you're 16, 17, so you're pretty experienced of meeting new people. Bottom line is friends are really important. Friends make your school days as magical and as nostalgic as they are. If you don't have friends, then I really have no hope for you. For those of you people who are having trouble finding friends, I would say be yourself, but if you're an absolute idiot and loser, then being yourself is not the greatest advice. So try to make yourself be presentable and be admirable. Try to emphasize something about your personality that people will want to come to. Okay, so if you're if you were really lonely in primary school and you go into secondary school and you're really anxious that you'll be lonely again, if you're really good at drawing, just sit there and draw something. I don't know. The thing about friendships in the early stages of your life, when it comes to especially secondary school, because everyone is so cliquey, everyone's brains are developing, and it's a very weird transitional period. Everyone's going through puberty. The girls have kind of ended and the boys are kind of beginning. It's a very weird place to be. People are very judgmental. It can be a little bit scary for people, but I'd say don't be scared. Okay, if you just honestly be yourself. I know I said not to be yourself before, but to be honest, you need people can smell deception and dishonesty from a while back, and also they can smell desperation. So if you're desperate to be someone's friend, you're like, yes, you're my friend, honestly, I'm going to treat you I'm going to give you my 100% divided attention. That is such a turn off for people. Honestly, just be chill. Honestly, just be chill. Just say, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. It's a very weird one, friends. But what isn't a weird one is knobheads, which is item number 4. Knobheads will I like to think of the school periods as like a video game. So, friends are kind of power-ups, knobheads are the challenges that you face. Listen, everywhere you go in the world there is going to be arseholes. There is no way of avoiding that. People are not going to agree with you 100% of the time. So that way, knobheads are actually very, very useful, or just general arseholes or bullies, because they somehow, and this is very weird to say for someone who was kind of semi-bullied in secondary school, they kind of raise you up. They toughen you up. They make you deal with the harshness and insecurities and imbalances of the world. They make you more prepared for the stuff that will challenge you later on in life. So the best way I used to deal with bullies is just agree with them. So back in year 7 I had stupidly long hair, and looking back at it, I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. Why in the fucking hell did I have long hair like that? If you go back to my old videos on this channel, you'll be able to see. That's if I make them on private. But if you I had stupid long hair and people used to make fun of me for it, and they were like, "Oh, your hair's gay," and I just went, "Yeah, I know." Like, there's nothing they can say back to that. If you agree with them, just go, "Yeah, my hair is pretty gay." They're like, "Yeah, yeah, it is," and you're like, "Yep." And suddenly what you're talking about becomes very boring, because the worst thing you can do is get annoyed. When you get annoyed, you present a reaction to them, and that's basically what they want. They're not doing it because they hate you. They're not doing it because, they purposely want to harm you. They're doing it because they think it's a laugh, and they want to get a laugh out from their mates. So when they make jokes at your expense, you have to realise that it's at your expense, so you're the target, and you're like, "Oh, okay, haha, very funny." What you've got to do is make it as boring as possible. You've got to make the joke as uninteresting as possible, and then other people won't use it. If an in-joke is going around the school that you have, like, long hair or something, and this is not like me voicing my insecurities, it wasn't that big. If that's happening, just try and make it as boring as possible. Just try and, pass it off. Not even laugh around it, not even like bounce back to it, and just sort of go, "Yeah, yeah," and just make it as dull as possible, because that's all they want. All they want is the reaction. All they want is the beef. All they want is some drama, because school gets boring very, very fast, and they're at this weird period where their brains are developing and everything's all like weird, and that's what you got to do. Make it boring. If you're you're getting made fun of, make it boring. Now, obviously, if it's genuinely hurtful, or if it's discriminatory, if someone goes after you because you're black or whatever of that, if you realise that there is not joke behind it, and they are viciously attacking you and viciously attacking you relentlessly and carrying it on, you need to talk about that with someone. Like, that is wrong. Bullying is essentially wrong. Banter happens everywhere. You won't. Sorry, if someone say, "Oh, you're gay," that's not bullying, okay? If someone just goes up to you, "You're gay," and it's obviously a joke, that is not bullying. If someone is pushing you around and kicking you and attacking you physically and absolutely homing down on you with insults relentlessly every single day, that is completely and utterly wrong, and that has to be dealt with officials, because no one stands for that kind of behaviour. And if someone actually did see someone doing that to you, if you're being viciously bullied, then you need to talk to someone right now, as soon as possible. So item number 5, which is the final topic that I want to talk about starting school, is exams. Now, this is kind of going out to people who are in year 10 or in year 11. In year 10, year 11, well, not really year 11 because you just got your results, but basically in that sort of later period, sort of 10, 11, 12 and 13, exams are horrible. They are absolutely horrible. I prefer them to coursework, because, to be honest, I get really distracted whilst doing coursework. But exams, if coursework is like being pricked by a cactus, exams are like being pricked by a needle. It's not exactly, an upgrade. So exams are important because they assess your ability, and when I talked at the start of the video, the educational system is a bit flawed. You know, everyone learns in a different way. Everyone can regurgitates their knowledge in different ways. But the one thing you got to learn about exams is just prepare. My old deputy head teacher and sort of head of year in secondary school had a really famous saying that sticks with me to this day, is preparing to fail. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And honestly, he's 100% accurate. If you don't prepare for exams, if you go in there and just wing it and thinking that you're hot shit, you're just going to fail. You're not going to do well in that exam because you won't have the necessary knowledge. If you think that all the stuff that you've learnt in lessons is enough, it won't be. If you think all the stuff that you did in your homework and lessons is enough, then it won't be. If you think about 10 minutes of revision a month is enough, it's not, okay? Do it little and often. That way it'll stick in your brain. That way, this shit has been proved by psychologists across the world, across the scientific field of education, is that learning in short bites, in about half an hour segments across the day, do like 10 minutes and then have a little break and then do 10 minutes. But it's just do it little and often. I know that is the most annoying thing in the world, but to be honest, revision is not pleasant. Revision is seriously a horrible thing to do, but as I said before, secondary school is like a video game. There's challenges and there's perks. So revise. I just about managed to pass my GCSEs on the bare minimum amount of revision that I did, and to be honest, I was a bit disappointed with my grades. I'm not gonna lie. I got like C's, B's, and A's. Some of the A's I actually worked for, but some of the grades I was a bit disappointed by, and I could have reached the potential that I could have really. And on the other side of the scale is overworking. So if you constantly revise and devote 100% of your time to just relentless work, that is seriously detrimental. That is just as bad as doing not enough work. If you do too much work, then that is really going to happen because you're going to be stressed, you're going to be tired, if anyone's seen the In-Betweeners episode where they do exams and Will's like in the library 24/7 reading books and stuff like that, and he's drinking Proplos, he's not even sleeping, and he ends up shitting himself in the exam, quite literally. And that is a perfect metaphor for overworking. If you overwork, you will be stressed to no end. I remember I sat next to someone in a lot of lessons, and she was just devoting 100% of her time to revising her maths because she really wanted. She was god set on getting the grades that she wanted for maths, and you've got to realise that on that day they could throw a curveball at you. At the end of the day, there's only so much you can prepare. You can chuck as much exam preparation and do past papers and revise from textbooks and just throw your whole life at it, but at the end of the day you don't know what's going to be on that exam paper. You don't know what's going to be there in those dotted lines when you open up the paper on whatever date you're doing your exam. It's ultimately undeterminable. So you can revise as much as you want. That's why I say little and often. Take regular breaks, don't stress yourself out, and you can be calm and ready when you do those exams, because ultimately that is why you're there. That is why you go to school. That is why you spend 5 out of 7 days a week learning and studying and getting the grades that you need to succeed in life. Thank you for listening to Robbie's Ramblings. This is 19 minutes long. This is definitely a ramble. See you later.